Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my dream world. If you didn't see the title, today we will be talking about Dancing with the Stars season 33 because the finale was last night and I have a lot to say about what went down. I initially had the idea to just rank all of the dances in a classic ranking video, but that was just too much brain rot for me right now, and I'm not a trained ballroom dancer, so I figured I'll just stick with a regular media chat like I did with my Dance Moms video. Before I get into it, in case some longtime fans find this channel and get mad at me for not knowing some of my stuff, here's some context. I've been watching Dancing with the Stars since season 30. I got addicted to Dance Moms over the pandemic. I found out JoJo Siwa was on the show. I watched it, stuck with it since then. By the way, not a JoJo Siwa stan. If you saw my Dance Moms video, you might know. She's just the reason that I initially started watching the show. I've also done some minimal research on past seasons, past pros, past contestants, you name it. I've watched a lot of the old dances, but my point is I've never sat down and watched those old seasons because I wasn't able to see them live. Cool. With that out of the way, I'm gonna make a quick agenda for those of you who are maybe interested in only some parts of this video, so you don't have to watch the whole thing because I have a lot to say. But if you want to watch the whole thing, I highly encourage you to do so. Here's my agenda. I'm gonna go over our contestants and our pros, the partnerships of this season. Then I'm gonna go over the whole social media thing that has now been integrated alongside this show. I'm gonna go over the season structure, the judging, the dances that were picked, kind of just a basic little rundown on that. And then I'll go over the finale, and then I'll go over favorites, highlights, overall opinions, which I do at the end of every review that I do show media. Without further ado, I'm gonna hop right into my first topic, which is the contestants and the pros. And because I don't want anyone to be all like, oh, like you picked an order weirdly, no, I'm just gonna do it based on placement. So I'm gonna start with our most infamous pairing of this season. I want to state one thing. I do not condone having convicted criminals on this show. However, Anna is far from the most problematic person they've had on this show, if we're going to keep it real. So keep that in mind as I make my comments about her. I'm just gonna be honest, I thought they were funny on social media. She was funny. And honestly, with that contrast in personality, I actually kind of liked her paired with Ezra. I didn't love her dances. I just felt like there was such a lack of effort and expression. And I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, like you need to smile more. It's not like that. I just felt like everything about her dances was very dry. I think if you watch Sharna's dance reviews on her Instagram and TikTok, she summed it up pretty well, how I felt about Anna's dancing. But she was decent otherwise, though. Like, in terms of pure dance ability, I felt like she was okay. And there were two contestants that should have left before her. Let's just be real. Like, I'm talking pure dancing, not likability, not anything like that. I also actually really liked her little moment in the finale during one of the bumpers that she did with Tori. That was lovely, and it also makes me a little sad because I was like, dang, she really, like, I kind of wish she went a little bit farther than she did, even though I wasn't a huge fan of her. And I also love Ezra in general. He's hilarious, and I was super excited that he finally got his first season as a pro, and then he was the first cut. So that was really sad. I hope this was kind of like a hazing partnership for him and that he'll get somebody better next season. They'll bring him back on. They'd be stupid not to because the media loves him. But yeah, I honestly did not hate this woman on the show, but also didn't like connect to her in that kind of way. Then we have Tori and Pasha. Honestly, I liked her. I just don't have that much to say about her because we didn't really see much of her either online or on the show. She could have stayed over two other people, just being real. And you could tell that she genuinely wanted to be there. It's also a shame that Pasha came off of such an amazing season with Ariana. Like, their foxtrot was my favorite dance of that season, period. But then he fell back down to getting eliminated first/second. So that kind of sucks for him. But I don't really have much else to say about them. Then we have Reggie and Emma. Let me just say, this man is an absolute gem. I adore him as an entertainer, but he could not move. This man could not move. Like, literally, they had to make a commercial break so that he could get up the stairs to get his scores. Like, just because of that, I feel like he shouldn't have been on this show, even though I had an absolute joy of a time watching him on social media, and he was adorable with Emma. Like, even the next couple that I'm gonna talk about, though, like, did better than him movement-wise, which is, you know, saying a lot. I'm glad that he got so much love on social media because he genuinely just radiates pure sunshine and joy. And apparently they were supposed to dance to Married Life from Up if they made it to Disney Night, which I know genuinely would have made me sob even though his dance ability was not there. But he should have been one of the first two to go, because let's just be real, y'all. He was the worst dancing-wise this year. I still love him, though, and honestly, I want to go watch his shows now, because as a person, he was a gem. Now, Eric, Roberts, and Britt. Britt is my fave, by the way. I just absolutely adore her personality-wise, and she's grown so much as a dancer since season 30 when I first saw her. Loved her partnership, both in real life and on the dance floor with Daniel. But Eric, he was cute on this show. Like, he seemed to have a very sweet partnership with Britt. Like, when he said, like, oh, I'm glad it's you, that was very, very sweet. But since he kind of seems to have a controversial past, Google exists, by the way, I'm not going to air it out on here. I'm not going to talk too much about him as a person. Dancing-wise, he did a little better than I expected him to do. I thought that Reggie was going to be better than him, especially since he said, like, he has mobility issues due to a pretty horrific accident that he mentioned at the beginning of the show. So, good for him for getting across the dance floor. But, yeah, again, he should have just been one of the first to go. Because he just had trouble moving in general, and I honestly think that, like, I feel kind of bad for him because he was like, oh, like, my wife loves this show, and I've danced on it for so long, and I sucked. Like, he said that, and so, yeah, that's a little sad for him, but, you know, I just, dancing-wise, it just wasn't there. Then we have Brooks and Gleb. I think that Brooks would have done better with another pro. She was decent, dancing-wise. Like, I didn't hate her dancing, but they focused on the showmance-hookup-mance. They amped up a showmance that may or may not have been partially real, and that just made it very annoying to watch. I don't know why they were surprised when they got eliminated. That's the second time in a row that Gleb has fumbled dedication night. Needless to say, I am not a Gleb fan. I don't love his choreography. Like, of course, he's a great dancer, but he's attractive, so a lot of people, like, thirst over him and stuff, but I just don't like his choreography. He's just very, like, vanilla to me, and this season, he was just kind of, like, annoying and cringy. His best season was definitely with Shangela, obviously, but like I said, Brooks was a decent dancer, and she got a little bit too much hate in that regard, which, you know, is a little bit of a pattern in this fandom, but I digress on that. I just kind of, like, they even called out Gleb for teaching her the wrong frame, I think, in, like, week 2. That tells me it was more of a him problem than a her problem. And, you know, needless to say, Gleb is one of the taller male pros, so I feel like they are gonna keep him, but if they let him go, I would not be disappointed. Let's just put it that way. And before I go any farther, like, I'm not talking about these people as people because I don't know them in person. I'm talking about how, like, they've been presented on the show and what I know from their work in their past. I don't know these people. Parasocial relationships are weird. I just want to put that out there before I go any farther because I might say some things that are a little, like, I don't like them. I'm not disliking any of these people for who they are, because I don't know them, so just wanted to put that out there. It's just like the Dance Moms video. We do not know these people. But that aside, next I have Phaedra and Val. Phaedra was funny. She honestly did better than I thought she would have, because I didn't really have any expectations for her coming in. She had some decent showings, but this was clearly a downgrade for Val. I mean, he went from Gabby and Sochi to this. And even Olivia Jade, season 30, was a great dancer. She just didn't have the audience on her side. But I think Phaedra and Val placed appropriately. I did enjoy her commentary about a certain guest judge who did her absolutely dirty. But, you know, they placed appropriately in this competition. Pretty much exactly where I think they should have. She had some, you know, like a few decent moments, but I just didn't really feel one way or another about her. Then we have Jen and Sasha. First of all, I want to say, again, kind of like Gleb, I'm not a fan of Sasha's choreography. It's just like really jumbled and weird. And I also wasn't really a fan of their kind of like amped up real dash face. I don't know about their relationship. Showmance type partnerships are just not really my thing. Though if they are together, which there have been hints of it being on social media, I'm very happy for them because even though I don't really like Sasha as a pro or choreographer, or as a choreographer, he seems to have like very sweet and genuine relationships with his partners. So like because of that, I don't hate him. But yeah, Jen, I really wish she stayed a little bit longer, or even made it to the finale, because initially I was kind of meh about her. I was like, yeah, she's fine, middle of the pack. I'm not a Bachelor fandom person, so I knew nothing about her other than, you know, the regular buzz about the horrible things that happened on her season. But she really began winning me over on Soul Train night with her Viennese waltz, and then her paso, and her contemporary. Like, I was like, I want to see more of her. And I just thought she was funny, and she's very, very pretty also. So I was like, yes, girl, slay. But yeah, it just sucks that she got eliminated after a very good night. I definitely think she should have stayed over a few people, and she potentially could have continued improving had she been given the chance. And yeah, I mean, like, I don't want to be all like, she deserved to be top 3, but like, I would have liked to see her in the finale. I think I'll get into my favorites of this season, but I really just wish she went at least a little bit farther. And then we have Dwight and Daniela. I love Danny. Not a fan of Dwight for several reasons. I'm also just not really like a sports watcher. But again, I'm gonna focus primarily on his dancing. But yeah, Danny carried this partnership hard, because she's an amazing pro and an amazing choreographer. Like, he had a solid start with his salsa. Like, honestly, when I saw it, I was like, okay, this could be fun, like Iman 2.0. That's what a lot of people thought. But and then he had like a decent foxtrot, but then we got that cha-cha, and after that he just fell off completely. I mean, bro, like, objectively, he barely moved, let alone danced, during his Halloween contemporary, and somehow still got a 10, which was wild. Sorry, but it was. And like, again, Danny absolutely carried. Like, she was phenomenal there, but like, dude barely moved and straight up almost dropped her. So I feel like I'm valid when I say that I'm kind of mad that he beat Jen. And people saying like he should have stayed over Alona, absolutely wild. I know people jumped on Danny for doing mostly lifts, and I'm about to get into that, but Dwight was worse for sure, and I'm glad that he wasn't in the finale because I don't think he deserved it. Sorry. But yeah, I love Danny though. I was actually a little bit sad for her, but she has a lot going for her. Like, people kept them in this competition because they love her choreography, period. So yeah, no hate to her. Absolutely love her as a pro and a dancer. She's phenomenal. Then I have Danny and Whitney. First of all, super good to see Whitney back. She's a great pro, great choreographer, and I loved their partnership. Like, genuinely, I thought they had a great partnership. Definitely, he was the dark horse of this season, but, Danny stands. Please don't hate me, but I just really didn't connect to their dances. I just didn't. And I think Danny got very lucky with the dance styles he was assigned. His strength, obviously, were in lifts. He's a very good lifter. That's the truth. And he had 3 back-to-back dances that were lifts, you know, that allowed lifts. He had contemporary, jazz, Argentine tango, and he also had no proper Latin styles with hip action. Like, yes, he had a paso, but he never had a samba, a cha-cha, a rumba. Like, he never had one of those. So I was like, wait, what? Like, I need to see this man dance for reals before I can actively root for him. And his Argentine tango, which could have had more actual Argentine tango content in it besides the lifts, it honestly wasn't great. I do think he had some dances where he did decent. His original jive, his quick step, and his contemporary jazz were good entertainment wise. His jive dance off against Joey was actually pretty decent. Definitely the most watchable dance off of the night. Even though Joey clearly won that, but like it was a good dance off. And so because of that, I was like, okay, like I'm warming up to him a little bit. And it also is clear that he had great work ethic, was a good overall contestant, but I just didn't really connect to him. So like I found myself rooting for him less than the rest of the finalists. That's just my opinion. I know there are a lot of Danny fans. I just did not connect to him because also like his expression just wasn't there for me. Like, I don't know. You don't have to be the most performative dancer to have musicality, but for him it just wasn't there for me. I just didn't see that connection to the dances that I did with the others, which I'm going to get into right now. Steven and Riley. Initially, I was a little like mixed. I was happy to see him on the show because he's great. But I was a little iffy about this partnership, not because of Riley, but because I really kind of wanted to see him with Britt or Whitney. Since Britt, because I want to see her get like a really fun and popular contestant, and Whitney because I was like, oh, she's gonna kill it with the choreography, and also she's a shorter pro, so I was kind of expecting him to be with Whitney, especially because she usually gets strong contestants, so I was like, yeah, I could totally see him with Whitney. But you know, after the hot mess of a certain contestant last season, I'm glad that Riley got a good partner, because energy-wise, I loved them. Like, in terms of pure vibes, they were great. Steven is very, very, very sweet, humble, hardworking. He's easy to root for. Somebody on Reddit said this. My biggest issue with him was consistency. He was very hot and cold. That's what the comment said, and I agree with that 100%. He had some great dances. I actually loved his contemporary. Low-key might have been my favorite contemporary of the season. And I enjoyed his tango, his Viennese waltz, his jive, and of course his freestyle, but he just fluctuated a lot in terms of improvement and then went back down to being surprisingly bad. And I was kind of like, oof, just because of that, I had a little bit of trouble connecting to him. But I can appreciate that he was always putting in 100% each time. Riley gets my props for having her first good season again after whatever was going on last year. I do truly enjoy Steven as a person and as a contestant, but dancing-wise, I was just pretty inconsistent about him, so he didn't end up being my favorite, but no hate to him. He's lovely. He just seems absolutely lovely in general. So, like, I'm happy that he was on the show, but I just didn't really, like, connect with him dancing-wise, because it was a little shifty for me. But, you know, he did have some good ones, like I said, so love him. Oh, my love, Chandler and Brandon. Okay, I have a lot to say about her aside from her dancing and her partnership, so I'm gonna keep it a little shorter, but part of me wants to say robbed, because she was, but honestly, I'm just happy that she wasn't a shock early elimination. That's happened to a lot of great dancers, and unfortunately, specifically, a lot of women of color. So the fact that she placed as high as she did against people with massive fan bases, I'm proud of her, especially considering the reception of her on social media, which I am going to get into. She was by far the most enjoyable for me, dancing-wise, and some of the hate that she got was so disgusting. I will stand on that and get into it later, but all love for Chandler and Brandon, who really, really stepped it up this season, and I'll get into that more. But, like, he, you know, in general has been kind of, like, meh for me choreography wise, but this season I think Chandler brought out the best in him in multiple ways. So much love to this partnership, definitely my favorite. Next, Ilona and Alan, the People's Princess. I love this partnership. And I loved her journey on the show. As much as I love her, definitely not the best dancer. However, to some people that were acting like she was way, way, way worse than Steven and Danny, y'all are tripping. I feel like they were interchangeable. They each had different strengths and weaknesses. So at the end of the day, it all came down to preference and journey and like what people are looking for when they support somebody on the show. Maybe I am a little bit delusional because I admittedly do have a crush on this woman. And again, I'm not a trained ballroom dancer, so in terms of technique specifically, I can't say, but like in terms of entertainment and what I know about dancing as a performer and actor, I've done musical theater, I've done dance classes before, like I didn't feel like she was really that much worse, if at all, than Danny. And I didn't like that she got heat for relying a lot on lifts when Danny and Dwight did so more than her, but then got gassed up because of it. So that really annoyed me. We all kind of know why though, huh? And as a contestant, she's exactly the type of celeb that is able to have a journey over the course of an entire season. So yeah, I loved her and I loved her journey on the show. Do I think she should have been second? No. Personally, I had her as third or fourth, but I predicted that she had won over a lot of America as well as her already very big and supportive fan base. And her impact has been so wonderful. I mean, Lindsay Arnold, Riley's sister, even shared a TikTok of her sweet little baby girl, like lifting a bunch of stuff after watching Ilona's jazz dance, which admittedly I did not like actually. But her doing that, like that is just such great impact. Like she's had such a positive influence on so many women, which I love. I adore her as a person. So yeah, Ilona haters, this is not the channel for you. Then we have Joey and Jenna, our Mirrorball champions. I'm just gonna say, I said from the beginning, if it wasn't gonna be Chandler, which I predicted that it wasn't, unfortunately, but I digress, I'm happy that it's Joey. Even if he didn't have the best finale, he was consistently entertaining and came in with absolutely no dance experience. So he surprised a lot of people with that natural rhythm that he had since week 1, and he improved throughout for sure. Jenna, other than maybe like 2 dances, she was absolutely serving this year with the choreography. I mean, I know people are kind of like, oh, she's only good when she has a ringer. Well, Joey was not a ringer. He didn't have, well, maybe he was in terms of like fandom, but he didn't really have any prior dance experience, and she did fantastic with him. I think she deserved, her and Brandon were the 2 most deserving pros of that Mirrorball, along with Joey and Chandler being the 2 most deserving contestants of the Mirrorball. So yeah, she deserved it, and he deserved it too. Even if he wasn't my favorite or my Mirrorball pick, I felt that he was a worthy winner. So yeah, I have nothing bad to say about him. So now with that being said, I'm going to start talking about the social media aspect of this show and how it's definitely changed. First of all, I feel like I'm in a kind of weird position as a fan since I'm not a long time like OG watcher that has complained about how the show has changed, nor am I a fan who just found it out because of TikTok and Riley last season. Brownie points to her, by the way, for bringing the insanity of Dancing with the Stars to social media, and then act like I've seen the show since the very beginning and then get mad when I'm called out for not knowing what I'm talking about. Yes, I'm being a little bit shady today because I have a few things to say about certain fans on this show, but yeah, I'm kind of in a weird position because I started watching in season 30, which wasn't that long ago, but also kind of seems like it was long ago because it was not insane like this on TikTok, and like the fandom, it's changed. It changed last season with Riley and with social media really being utilized by our contestants. So yeah, And I'm honestly, like, a lot of people said, like, TikTok has ruined the show, but, like, I'm glad that new people are watching it because now we're gonna get more content out of it. But good lord, the social media part of this season, last season as well, but really this season, so toxic. Some people need to realize, and I know, like, this show has a big audience, so the impact all contestants make on this show does mean something, but at the end of the day, this is a dancing show. It's a dancing show where people go on and do dances each week, and it's a competition. But, like, when we're all at each other's throats because we don't have the same favorites, it just sucks the fun out of it. And that's why, like, I haven't really talked about Dancing with the Stars on social media just because it spikes my anxiety. And I don't want to be stressed over a dancing show. I think also for those of you who are going to be like, well, you've kind of like trashed on some people, I feel like there's a difference between being critical of someone's dances and having certain preferences versus like straight up attacking people who have a different favorite. And that's why I've been so reluctant to engage on social media about this show. I mean, I even just made a comment on TikTok and an argument started beneath my comment, even though I didn't really say anything. I was just, well, I'll copy paste what I put here and then y'all can see if you can find it. But that was crazy. Like, I literally went back to it and was like, ooh, no, did not think this comment was going to cause an argument, but whatever. The toxicity was also especially apparent for one particular contestant. You guessed it, Chandler. I think I'll get into it. But, you know, I usually try to keep things family friendly when I'm talking about a family friendly show. Like when I played Five Nights at Freddy's, I was swearing up a storm because I was scared. But when I talk about Ninjago, I try to keep it PG. But I'm going to make an exception for this media chat. Chandler haters, fuck you. And I mean seriously, big fat middle finger to you. Before anyone freaks out, if Chandler was not your favorite and you prefer rooting for people with no experience who have that kind of like journey from nothing to becoming a dancer, I 100% respect that. I mean, I loved Alona and Joey this year. I enjoyed Allison Hannigan's journey last season. Your preference to what, like, to who you're rooting for and to who you want to support, completely valid. However, to the people that were saying like, she doesn't deserve to be on the show, she has dance experience, and I just don't, like, she has bad vibes. Ew, gross. Chandler was, even if you didn't connect to her dances, she was as sweet as pie throughout this entire season. And to be perfectly honest, you're giving racist if you're saying comments like this, especially considering, I mean, let's just be real. I mean, obviously this doesn't apply to everyone, but the core audience of this show is conservative and is generally older white women or the new white TikTok teens that just discovered the show and generally are Riley fans, which is totally okay. Like, be a fan of Riley. But tearing down other contestants, especially other women, is just so gross and weird. Like, as a woman of color, I'm gonna call it like I see it. Because it's the same damn thing every single time. It happened to Charity last season too. And Charity, I'm just gonna be honest though, wasn't my favorite dancer. Like, Sochi and Jason were my favorites last year because they were the ones I connected to the most. But she was objectively a beautiful dancer and personality-wise was classy and nothing but kind. Like, she was so sweet to Lele and she had a great relationship with Sochi and still does. Yet she got the she has bad vibes and she's ungrateful type of comments when I'm not going to mention his name, but a certain contestant was far more obnoxious on that season. Like, there's a pattern, y'all. Only one black woman has ever won this show. Minimal black women and women of color have made the finale. I mean, yes, we had Sochi and Charity last year, but come on. Like, let's just be real. And Chandler and Brandon were the first black couple in 33 seasons. I'm going to touch on it more later when I talk about their freestyle and why it was so important. But like them being in the finale was a big deal. And to the people that were like, like, why did they have to make the dance about race? Let me just tell you, it's because of y'all's racist selves. Black people in this industry, they've been underacknowledged and underappreciated and treated horribly for decades. So for them to pay homage to their identities, to their cultures, after being the first Black couple as finalists on the show, they absolutely should be able to show that with their freestyle. And circling back to the whole, like, she has dance experience. Sweetie, if they really were strict about the no prior dance experience rule, the pool of celebs that they could pick from would massively shrink because, surprise, surprise, a lot of actors, singers, performers have had some kind of dance experience at some point in their lives. I mean, I don't consider myself a trained dancer, but because I did theater, I did a few musical theater classes, and because I had to. It's been a thing since the OG seasons. I feel like there's never been a season where it was entirely people with absolutely no dance experience or like music training or anything. So unless somebody is an actively professional dancer, like Maddie Ziegler said she wouldn't do the show because she has too much experience. I agree with that. But even then, like, I don't want to hear it. I watched this show because I want to see good dancing. And Chandler was the only one who really, like, engaged me consistently throughout the entire season in terms of pure dancing. But also, even on the flip side, which kind of brings back the misogyny stuff that I've touched on, to the people that were like, if Alona wins, this show is no longer about dancing. Like, I literally got a comment about that on the comment that I did. I was like, honey, wake up. This show was always and always will be a popularity contest. Like, why do you think America chooses to win? Like, come on, let's be real. Freaking Bobby Bones won against finalists that were way, way, way better than him. Iman was 6th on the leaderboard in season 30 and he won. So say that about him too if you're going to make that argument. And I'm not anti-Iman, by the way, but let's not have a double standard. Cody Rigsby made it way farther than other dancers on season 30 as well, despite being 7th and having prior dance experience. Like, it's always been about votes, and that's why I'm happy that Chandler actually made the finale. I was really worried that she was going to be a surprise shock elimination that happened way too early, especially with all the ugly comments that were made online. So yeah, I stand by a lot of this fandom, unfortunately, is racist, misogynistic, and just like very, very double standardy towards different contestants, and that really sucks. And it was very, very loud on this season too. So you know what, Chandler getting all the way to the finale and being able to do that freestyle, as she should, period. And again, if you have a problem with them making it about race, check yourself. You're the problem, because it should not make you uncomfortable that they wanted to celebrate their culture and their identity. Third topic. I'm going to keep this brief. This is just kind of like the way the season was structured this time, because I have seen, like 4 seasons at this point. I'm glad that they got rid of first episode eliminations, because I always feel that each contestant should at least get 2 weeks, 2 dances. Some of them will feel more comfortable with different styles, and getting eliminated after 1 try just really sucks, especially if, like, let's say nerves got to them. I mean, Sochi's night 1 dance was not, I mean, it was fine, but it wasn't anything special, and then she went on and was absolutely amazing. Even Vinny, who was not a great dancer on season 31, like, his second week was much, much, much better than his first week. Like, that's why I feel like each contestant should always get 2 weeks. Like, first week is a practice run, second week, that's when we start kind of being like, okay, people can start going home now. Guest judges this season, like, they're fine, but I do think that Abby Lee Miller has finally been dethroned as the worst guest judge on the show, because Gene Simmons, disgusting. I don't care. Like, I didn't know much about him prior to the show, but I don't care. I really don't. He made such weird comments about the women, both the pros and the contestants. Way underscored Phaedra. Like, her dance wasn't amazing or anything, but the other judges gave her sevens and he gave her a five. Really? And he also scored Jen lower, you know? Do y'all see a pattern? I mean, he even tried to change his score and give Brooks a 10 after giving her a 9, and he gave Danny a 9 when the rest of the judges I think gave him sevens because he thought Whitney was like one of the most beautiful women he's ever seen. Gross. Gross. Charity from last season, she clocked it on TikTok. And also, she was an absolute queen on social media, too. I should have mentioned her in the previous topic, because she defended Chandler as she should. But yeah, she clocked it. And God, like, that made me deeply uncomfortable that entire time. And that was one moment, like, Phaedra snapped back at him, with her comments. And also, I kind of wish that Anna was there, because I feel like she would have roasted him. But here's one part of the season that really bugged me. The judging was so inconsistent. I'm definitely gonna call out Carrie Ann a little bit, because some of the comments she made, especially towards Chandler, was absolutely wild. But you know what? And I know some of y'all are his fans, but I'm gonna call out Derek too. He was very inconsistent. Like, one week he was trying to be the tough judge, and the next week he's overscoring like crazy. The semifinals was a prime example like that. I know a lot of y'all don't like Cheryl Burke, but you know, her reviews are pretty spot on. Genuinely, I think we need a clean slate of judges. I know some people have said like bring Sharna and bring, like, you know, I don't care. Like, let's just really, because Len Goodman was the one that kept it real. And now we don't really have anyone keeping it real consistently, and that's annoying. So I think we just need to switch up the judging panel. Bruno being the most consistent this year, that was surprising to me, and even he had some moments where I was like, dude, what are you doing? So yeah, judging was definitely off. Not a fan of the 5-person finale and the 3 hours. They did it last season too. It was messy. It's too long, and it takes up too much space, and yet still ends up with a rushed ending. That's annoying. And while I do love to see like other eliminated contestants and the reigning champions, former current pros do some dances, like, I do like that. It was fun to see Sochi again because I love her. And ooh, Derek and Mark's Argentine tango. Oh, it did something to me. I'm in the minority in that I'm not really like super attracted to either of them in general, even though I like them as pros and dancers, but that dance, it did something to me. Let's just say that. But speaking of the finale. Okay, first of all, that Juicy Ann comment was wild. Like, Julianne interacting with Danny. Oh, I just had to throw that in there. That was crazy. And also, production definitely knew what they were doing when they had Brooks and Jen do a romantic bumper. They knew what they were doing. So, yeah, I'll try to keep this brief because I'm talking a lot. I was actually a little surprised with some of the redemption choices. I kind of wanted Steven to do a foxtrot because his original quick step, I actually was, like, it wasn't amazing, but it was decent. And his foxtrot had like a really, really bad song. So after his Viennese waltz, I was like, ooh, and his tango, I was like, let's see him do like a proper foxtrot. But, you know, it is what it is. I also, you know, Joey's ideal redemption could have been his samba, even though people love that dance. But there was only one samba this season, and that annoys the heck out of me. So obviously that would have been a pretty crappy choice for him. You know, yeah, the redemption choices were just kind of like there for me. I feel like the only two that got a real redemption with their dances were Ilona and Chandler, because Ilona had a rough week with her jive. And Chandler, while her original jive was not bad, she did lose steam, and it wasn't one of her best dances, so I'm glad that she got another shot at it. And also the aesthetic was bi-colors for Chandler's dance, so I have to appreciate that. As for the freestyles, I'll just go in order of the way that they went. I loved Stevens. It was great. It encompassed exactly what I think a freestyle should be. It was a good combination of his journey and who he is as a person. I'm not as gaga about it as some people seem to be, but I'm surprised that he didn't place higher because I thought he did a great job. And for Riley's first freestyle, I'm going to give her props and her first perfect score other than the group dance last season. Joey, okay, I'm frustrated with this one because I'm glad that it didn't cost him the mirror ball. And honestly, I didn't hate it, and I feel like the mirror ball should be based on the entire journey of the show. But the tennis racket section, I'm sorry, it kind of ruined it, and it was my second least favorite freestyle of the night. This has been a pattern with Jenna. Eats with the choreography until the freestyle. I do think they were a little harsh, and the fandom is acting like his freestyle was horrendous. I honestly didn't hate it, but yeah, that one section with the tennis rackets was not great. It was bad. I'll just be real. And also, I would have liked to have seen it be more about his journey. Rather than just like, I love tennis. Because the dancing sections of the freestyle were actually pretty good, but because of the theme and some of the sections, it just ended up being super underwhelming. And I hate to be like mean to Danny. That was a hot mess. I'm sorry. Like, the whole first section was all Whitney, and there may have been like one decent dance section, but he barely danced, and his expressions during it felt lazy. And I'm surprised to say I didn't love the choreography. Whitney is usually excellent at freestyles, and I'm kind of sad because this theme was actually super fun for them. Danny should change his name to Ryan, because he's both been Ryan Reynolds and Ryan Gosling throughout this season, but this was just very underwhelming for me, and that's when I was like, yeah, he's got to get 5th place, otherwise I'm gonna be annoyed, even though I do like him. Ilona, oh, Ilona, I adore her. Like, I genuinely cried during this dance just because of the pure authenticity. Not my favorite dancing wise, and it took a minute to get actually into the dancing, but like Stevens, this is what a freestyle should be. Not only her journey, but who she is as a person, what she stands for. I loved it. I really, really did. Chandler, I already mentioned like why it was so important for her to do this dance. So I'm also going to cheer on right now Brandon. Like, Brandon, for your first finale and first freestyle, you won me over. Again, like I said, I didn't like hate him beforehand or anything, but I was never really into his choreography. He was okay with Lele last season, who was robbed, by the way. Check that. But Chandler brought out the best in him. This freestyle showed that. In terms of dance, expression of culture, and appreciation of journey, this one for me. And once again, if you have a problem with them making it about their culture, you're the problem. This was a beautiful tribute. Loved it. Loved everything about it. Honestly, the end result, I was happy with it. I gutted for Chandler, but at the same time, I felt that Joey was a deserving winner. He came in with no dance experience, improved, delivered entertainment practically every week, even if he wasn't the best every single time. But, I felt that he was worthy. I really, really did. And as long as Joey and Chandler won and Danny was 5th, I sound like a hater, I'm sorry, but I was happy. Because after the last few weeks, I had both of the Olympians over Danny, and Joey and Chandler was my top 2. And if I had it my way, Chandler would be 1st, and I could have seen Steven placing 3rd. Because while I enjoyed Ilona as a contestant more, Steven had more standout dances. For me, at least. So I had them kind of interchangeable. I just think the semifinals were Steven's downfall. But yeah, like, I'm not angry, just underwhelmed. So I've yapped a lot. I'm gonna just go through my highlights this season. I don't know if I have like a standout favorite dance of this season. Like season last season it was Ariana's Foxtrot. Season before Shangela's Freestyle and Charlie's Contemporary. Season before that JoJo's Argentine Tango. Redemption, by the way. But yeah, I guess like if I had to pick one, it'd be Chandler's Cha Cha. Just because I felt like that was when her personality really like came out and she nailed it technically. I saw the spark in Brandon that night too. I loved most of Chandler's dances though, so like except her contemporary, which was it was just the choreography for me. I didn't love it. Um but yeah, I also liked Steven's contemporary, consistently enjoyed Joey. Ilona and Jen had a few standouts as well, but Chandler really took it home for me this season dancing wise. Um, I also have Ramalama Bang Bang, Joey's Argentine Tango, stuck in my head. So I guess maybe that's up there too, even if it wasn't like the best dance. Um, but yeah, and my favorite contestants of this season, I realized were actually Team Goofs. Disney Night kind of sucked, but these were the contestants that I felt like I connected with. Even though Jen didn't make the finale, I do think like she had potential with a lot of her dances, so I was like, oh, I'm excited to see more of her. I'll add in Steven as an honorable mention since he did have a pretty good amount of standout dances, but he was just a bit too inconsistent for me to be like one of my favorites, especially since Latin is some of my favorites in terms of dances and he struggled with that. Like overall, wasn't a huge fan of this season because while I liked the majority of the contestants, every other season I've seen so far had just so much more enjoyable and memorable dances. So yeah, it did feel underwhelming. And I much preferred last season because I genuinely would have been happy with anybody in the finale winning, even though I had my two faves. And like how the dancing really improved as the season went on. Because last season I was like, ooh, like I'm not really sure about how this is gonna go, but then it got better as it went on, except for one certain contestant. Again, I think we all know who I'm talking about. But other than like a few freestyles, I was pretty underwhelmed by this season's finale, even though I was okay with the winner in the end. But it wasn't a complete bust because like a lot of the partnerships were enjoyable, and following this cast on social media was really, really wonderful because you could tell they had such a positive, genuine bond amongst each other. So I really did love that, and I can't be completely negative about this season. I just feel like out of the four that I've seen all the way through, this one was unfortunately my least favorite. As of now, of course, we have more to come, hopefully. But yeah, I'm just gonna close this off by at first saying sorry because my voice hurts. I've been talking a lot and the weather right now is not great for me. So, oh well. But really, next season, if, and we'll have one because apparently we did great this season views wise. Next season, I would really, I need to see more respect for Brandon, good partners for Britt, Emma, and Ezra. That's it. Like, I just want to see things get switched up a little bit too. But yeah, if you're a Dancing with the Stars fan, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Genuinely, I would. And I will see you all next time, hopefully for some more analysis or for a new Disney series. Bye!